As Kieran's barrage continues, Casio and Pencil divide themselves to better dodge the onslaught. Pencil remarks she only has 2 spears left and she materializes her next weapon. Side note, Pencil laments the fact that her weapons are so expensive. Info note, Pencil begins a chant. You are the one sewn together. I am the one tied down. I align with all things, but I drill into all darkness that goes against me. Shadow Wedge is cast as Pencil stabs her spear into the ground. Info note. The magic strikes the enemy's shadow, letting you halt its movement. The effect lasts until the weapon you strike it with is destroyed. However, during the use, the weapon's durability begins to plummet. Based on Kieran's size, Pencil states that they have about 5 seconds at best. Pencil jumps back, making some space between her and Kieran. As she aligns herself with the exposed core of Kieran, she materializes her final spear. Info note, this spear gives a damage bonus when used on monsters bigger than the player. Its name, Giant Killing Skewer. Side note, the spear is massive and ornate, diverging into different colors as more of the spear is examined. Pencil shouts this is just what the doctor ordered and it's time for them to go. Casio taunts her not to miss. However, as she darts in range, a rocket from Kieran manages to hit her directly in the arm. As Casio looks into the smoke of the explosion in horror, Pencil states that this is not a problem. I know I said a spear user can't fight with one hand. Well, I take that back. One arm is all I need for Kieran, she says as she raises her functioning hand high. As Pencil grips the spear, she furiously screams, "Let's go! It's time to slay the giant with all the fury she can muster." As the spear flies through the air, it pierces directly into the core. Lights and air pulsate and erupt from the connection of metal and weapon. Then, only moments after the weapon impales the core, Casio jumps with deadly intention over Pencil. Red, blue, yellow, a true color mix, Spirit Fist, Dark Overstrike. Before he can land the spear holding Kieran in place breaks apart. Casio tells Kieran before the hit to just give up. His glowing fist crackling with power and splinters of black lightning land directly into the spear, pushing it further and further through the core of Kieran until finally, the human pile bunker succeeds. The spear ejects out of the backside of Kieran. Side note, the once beautiful spear can be seen disintegrating as it flies across the battlefield. Kieran struggles to stand. Side note, Casio and Pencil grit their teeth as they beg the fates for the beast to fall. Finally, Kieran slams torso first onto Casio, slamming into the ground as it does. Side note, Casio appears in between the opening of the torso saying he's okay. An unprecedented amount of pixels explode around the duo as Kieran's body digitizes. Pencil joins Casio on the ground as she falls into a sitting position. I'm so beat. If that didn't seal it, we'd be so dead. Casio responds as he says Dark Overstrike paralyzes him after use. Pencil brushes this off and comments that he's just out of stamina. He'll be fine with some rest. At that moment though, Pencil has an epiphany. What about Sun Raikou? As she turns her attention to Sun Raikou, so do we. Side note, we move into the mind of Sun Raikou. Hunger Wolf and Climax Booth are both castable again for me. Togetsu Union Gauge at max. It's time to get going, he thinks. Wiseman is decaying but relentless. This is truly the final climax. Tachikaze is let loose to no avail. Sun Raiku's skill timers are all reset. He thinks using my recast timers, I have an accurate gauge of time frames of Sentai Taisei. I got 2 seconds until the next Tensai. Sun Raiku's eyes are filled with stern resolve. The key to victory is this Togetsu. As Sun Raikou says this, he moves his expanding weapons together. A blade as large as himself is formed. Its name, Togetsu Twin Moon. The combined Togetsu waxing and waning weapons. Info note, the lower your stats are than your enemies, the more this weapon ups the rate and power of critical hits. Sun Raikou thinks that when he needs a critical parry to block Tensai, it's the best weapon he's got. It'll boost his chance for each parry. Sun Raikou stomps his foot onto the ground, prepping his stance. Thanks to all his buff, his agility is also boosted. But there is one problem. Climax Boost is inactive. This is because it only works if his HP is at a third or less. Info note, Sun Raiku's health is at 11 out of 30. Side note, tears and snot begin running down his face as he realizes his mistake. As Wiseman stands in front of him, he racks his mind for some way out. Think, there's got to be something, right? As Wiseman readies the final blow, 10, suddenly a dagger flies from another place on the battlefield. This weapon lands directly into the opening of Wiseman's cracking mask. Suddenly, taunts accompany the dagger. Hey Wiseman, you're gonna make your girl cry. Suddenly, the taunts turn into action as Pencil and Casio begin besmirching the tombstone of Setsuna. For the space of a single second, Wiseman stopped moving. But that was enough time for Sun Raikou to raise himself from the dead. Info note, Sun Raikou stabs himself with the fusion weapon. Info note, the resurrection was part of the large-scale update that launched today. We temporarily moved to the past. Sun Raikou is reading a VR magazine. It explains that they are reworking when Clinch activates. Info note, if your lucky stat is 50 or higher and you were knocked out of battle by self-inflicted or recoil damage, then just one time you'll survive the hit with 1 HP. Climax Boost and Hunger Wolf both activate. Sun Raikou is ready. The complete Sentai Taisei action ends with the Tensai strike. The only way for this battle to end is for the Tensai to be surpassed. As the blade of Wiseman tears apart the very fabric of the battlefield, Sun Raikou says his last words. In the name of Vasiche, my boss, I'm gonna take you down. As the blades meet, Vorpal Crescent clashes with Tensai. As the blows screech back and forth, Sun Raikou commands Wiseman to just go to sleep. Waves of energy and dust swirl around the clash. The loser of the collision is Wiseman. As he falls, his body crumbles into nothing. Before its disappearance, Sunraiku states that yeah, he was strong, but I've seen that blade kill me 1,000,000 times, and by now, you can't reach me with it. The ultimate in sword strikes is no more. As Wiseman's blade falls into the earth, it chips and moans. Finally, it snaps in half. Before his weapon digitizes, Wiseman speaks. Well done. As my Saiten transitioned into Tensai, the ultimate strike, so my words turn into praise. You are brilliant. His sword lies broken. As his body decays, Wiseman continues to speak. As my Saiten transitioned into Tensai, the ultimate strike, so my words turn into praise. You are brilliant. Sunraiku questions Tensai and brilliant, the same kanji. Is that a pun? Suddenly, Wiseman laughs. As he falls to his feet, he says Setsuna said much the same. Again, truly brilliant in all ways. Descendant of the frontier folk. As Wiseman stands again, he grips his shattered blade. Kazuo nervously asks if there's more. Pencil quickly replies back, no, he's at his limit. Wiseman begins shambling to the tree that stands above Setsuna's grave. My body rots. I go to sleep. Setsuna, now I come to you. As the breeze blows, it carries his body away and into nothingness. The group begins talking amongst themselves. Pencil can't believe they didn't get a clear message. Info note, the cherry tree begins to wilt. As the area's composition begins to break down, the glitchy black patches that brought them here begin to appear again. Pencil looks shocked as Setsuna appears, reaching out and touching the final vestiges of Wiseman's remains. Pencil calls out her name and she replies in kind. Arthur, and also Oi Kazuo and Sunraiku, you finally achieved it. Thank you very much. Now my wish, no, the wish of Setsuna faraway days has been fulfilled. The group finds the verbiage for the completion weird. Setsuna, Pencil questions. You are the Setsuna, right? No, not quite, Arthur, she replies. Yes, I am Setsuna, but not the Setsuna who died on that day. Setsuna's wish was if my lover is constantly imprisoned by my death, please stop him, and I am the vision that wish created. In a way, I am a manuscript of her life. A perfect recreation of her hand. Info note. This projection is an image of the past created by the will of Setsuna from long ago, so basically a copy and past version of her. Hence the name Setsuna of Faraway Days. Side note, Setsuna begins to fade into the light, starting at her lower body and going up. I am Setsuna's image, one doomed to fade after my job is done. Pencil shouts, wait, Setsuna. Setsuna interrupts. Do not wail for me, Arthur. The moment the world answers her wish, this was always slated to happen. You are pioneers, descendants of the second plan, those who will open the world. And if you want to find your own roots, the truth behind the world, you must search for Bahamut. Bahamut, Kazuo repeats? Sunraiku asks if Kazuo knows this name. It's a giant fish treated like a dragon. Kazuo states he knows this. He just doesn't know what it means in this game. Pencil says there isn't any Bahamut monster in Shanfu-Ro. Pencil asks Setsuna to clarify. Setsuna remarks from here on, you must find it for yourself. After all, that's what opening the future is. Arthur, I speak these words to you not as Setsuna, but as my own self now. Thank you for always coming to visit me. I love you, Arthur. Pencil tries to speak, but the words won't form. Instead, a tearful and cheery wave accompanied by a you too. Pencil gone? Sunraiku questions. A quick I'm not crying is answered back. Side note, finally the official completion screen pings into view. As the group begins its usual antics of bickering, a somber smile spreads across Pencil's face. Wow, we really beat this. Thanks for putting up with my selfish butt, you guys. Kazuo assures her it doesn't matter. They did it because they wanted to. Sunraiku remarks how this is the first unique monster kill in the history of Shanfu-Ro. Info note. A screen appears for our players. EX unique scenario from the living world with love completed. Greed overtakes the group and they immediately begin scouting through their inventories looking for rewards. Info note. A bell appears in the sky and announcement begin. We have a new announcement for all Shangri-La Frontier players. Just a few moments ago, the unique monster Wiseman the Tomb Guard was confirmed to be defeated. The winning party is Sunraiku, Oi Kazuo, and Arthur Pencilgon, 3 in all. Now with this unique monster killed, the world story of Shangri-La Frontier has proceeded to the next waypoint. World story, Sunraiku questions? World story. The Shangri-La Frontier world has proceeded to the next waypoint. Countless players in a library are shouting, guys, we got an emergency. Can anyone make contact with the professor in real life for us? His wife's in Schweizerwolf, right? Have her bring him online. Info note. Clan, the library. A clan dedicated to investigating the Shanfu-Ro frontier world and story. They use their connections to assorted clans and information brokers to gather data and dive deeper into the Shanfu-Ro saga. A seated player speaks. Knowing him, the professor is bound to dive in once he hears a unique monster has been taken down. They ponder what the game master meant when he spoke about the progression of the world story. Alright, if the general arc of the story is about us exploring the world with the NPCs, then the world story must be talking about some new phase for the world itself. The seated man exclaims something out there in the world must have changed. Another suggests that they investigate Wiseman the Tomb Guard first. They had no solid intel about the unique monster before now. He says they should contact the players who beat him first. Just then, a message bings on the screen. Info note. The professor will be on soon. We now move to the guild base of Schweizerwolf. Gathered around a table are multiple powerful looking players. Among them is Saiga O. They can't believe anyone killed a unique monster before them. Saiga Zero stands arms folded, clad in sturdy-looking armor. Some top clan we turned out to be. A woman with short black hair and mage's robes says that Arthur Penselgon is from a Shurikai and she found it odd that she was missing during the attack. Saiga 100 grimaces with anger. That bastard wanted to bag the unique monster so bad she sold out the Ashura to an informant. She made us do her bidding. Another member remarks Orsalot got away, and another adds that Sunraiku and Kazuo aren't in Ashura. Saiga states that they don't have any info on Kazuo or Sunraiku, but Sunraiku's probably the one who tangled with the Night Emperor. Side note, Saiga O gets a bing on her message screen. Saiga 100 is questioned on their next move. She states that they're still headed to the new land, but she and a few others will stay. She pulls up the only picture of Sunraiku available. Side note, this is from when he and a mule were leaving Third Mia. With a greedy grin, she says she's even more interested in Sunraiku now. She giggles with glee, stating she must contact him and maybe even run the laundering trick on him. Suddenly, a member notices Saiga O has disappeared. The black-haired maid says she went to go lend a hand to a friend. We move back to the prismatic forest grotto. As Sunraiku and the gang walk out of the battle area, they are shocked by what they see. Ocelot and the Ashura members are present and beyond pissed. They begin mocking him by making silly variations on his name. Pencil scoffs at Orsalot, admonishing him for not knowing the true essence of player killing. She goes on to call him a third-class braggart and a wannabe. Orsalot erupts with anger, so it's true. You leaked our base location. You got it, she replies. You got so fat you were afraid of losing the flab, you turned into a big chicken, she retorts. All I did was slap you on the stomach and make you heave it all up. Orsalot cannot take any more of this verbal prodding. Like you are so superior. Wiseman must have tired you out, right? We're gonna kill all of you and take all the item drops you got from him. Side note, Orsalot has brandished an evil-looking single-handed blade. All the other Ashura members ready themselves as they begin their advance. Suddenly, a summoning circle appears on the ground. Side note, Orsalot is extremely shocked. Pencil sighs, chastising Orsalot for not looking at the big picture and only wanting a quick buck. Info note, one way to fend off PKers is what we call a distress signal. When a PKer attacks you, it lets you send an alert to your friends. When a friend receives the signal and they have the friend warp ability, you can summon them right there. Max Firepower stands fully armed, black blade in hand, ready for battle. Side note, Orsalot is visibly shaken. Side note, Sunraiku greets and apologizes for the sudden call. Saiga tells the Ashura members she's willing to let them flee again if they want. Orsalot's rage is insatiable, however. All of you, I swear, treating me like garbage, you bunch of pieces of crap. The Ashura members leap forth, ready for battle. Info note, we move forward where Orsalot and his members have been defeated. As Orsalot struggles on the ground, he curses Pencil for trying to take everything he's built. As she throws a dagger into Orsalot, finishing him off, she tells him, hey, you can't get everything you want on an MMO, right? You are better off with a single-player game. She recommends Faria Chronicles Online. Info note, Pencil has received all of Orsalot's items, including his evil black blade. Saiga gives the group kudos for beating the unique monster. Sunraiku thanks her and realizes that the announcement was worldwide. Now it'll be even harder to walk the main streets. As Sunraiku thinks what to say to Saiga, Pencil interrupts. She apologizes, then requests for Saiga to kill her. She says she can have everything she's carrying and all the rare stuff she sees from Shurikai. Kazuo asks if she's sure. The reason is because with someone like Pencil, if a PKKer kills her, she'll lose all her items and depending on the crime, she'll be fined a ton of money. Sunraiku remarks it'll be an insane amount knowing her. She rebuttals with, I'd be worse than Orsalot if I never took a risk. Plus, she's getting bored of PKing. She states, however, she won't be sitting back and letting her behead her. She's always wanted an opportunity with the Attack Holder title for real. The Attack Holder ponders the offer, an extended black blade reclaimed from a defeated foe. Silence, and then Saiga O extends her hand. All right, I will accept this. Once her weapon is made material, a chant is started. The evil emperor turned around, Satan, emperor of evil. Her blade goes from a phantom black to glowing bright enough to impair one's vision. Info note, the transformation of the weapon is in activation autonomy. Pencil comments how generous it is of Saiga to show her the inverse form. Side note, the once black blade is ignited in burning light. Saiga's armor has also gone from white to jet black. Saiga tells Pencil she's heard about her from her sister. She also comments that she was instructed to deliver death on sight if they ever met. Highest strength enchant, Vermilion, Karmic Embrace, Lightning Grace, Catastrophe. Buff after buff is activated. If the giant killer is my foe, I'll leave nothing on the table. Side note, Sunraiku has once again started his battle announcer shtick. Sip upon blood, tear off the meat, bite into the death, spit out life like the marauders you are. The blade that was taken from Orsalot begins to open up. It tangles around Pencil's arm like vines choking a tree. Serial killer. Stiletto sneer. Enchant Vorpal. Pencil meets Saiga with buffs of her own. As the battle starts, Pencil's the first to make a move. Sunraiku is in full announcer mode, shouting the play-by-play into his tiny mushroom microphone. The skill Massacre Bite is activated by Pencil. Using the terrain to her advantage, she jumps from tree to tree, then directly at Saiga from a more advantageous angle. This attack is blocked directly by Saiga's gauntlet. Something is wrong, however. As Pencil attempts to move the weapon back, she can't. It's become stuck to the gauntlet of Saiga. While still midair, a blinding light moves toward her. A huge explosion of dust and gravel shoots up as the blade meets target and earth. From the side, Pencil's bisected hand begins to fall downwards. But out of the updrafted dust, another hand launches, catching the blade. Pencil says that was a close one. As she uses another preferable angle, she says that with Setsuna and all that's happened, she can't start wimping out at this point. Blades collide as the one-handed Pencil musters all she can. Saiga respects her effort and decides to return the favor. Two repelling forces of light and dark, refusing to be rejected as they reconnect broken destinies. My body is clothed in light and dark. O chaos, consume the world for me. Chaos Void is activated. The onlookers cannot tell what happened, but after the explosion that came after the chant, nothing living is left in the vicinity of Saiga. Side note, the black fades from Saiga's armor. Sunraiku sulkily asks what's next. Kazuo whispers, I don't know, isn't that your friend? Dude, this guy saw my plan, ambushed me, and the next thing I know, he sent a friend request. In my mind, he's still a total danger. Sunraiku whispers back. Kazuo clashes his fists together, saying, well, time to show him how a pro gamer works. Before another confrontation can kick off, Saiga interrupts with a question. I want to know how you were connected to Pencilgon. Oh, well, we're game friends, Sunraiku plainly answers back. Oh, you are? Just game friends, she says in a relieved way. Side note, the friend warp is expiring and Saiga begins being teleported back. Sunraiku waves and thanks her for saving them again. Before she goes, she quickly says how she would love the chance to play with him. A sigh of relief is expressed by Sunraiku as she is teleported away. Kazuo notices that the black blade used by Pencil is still on the ground. Sunraiku picks it up, noting how gross it is, but that he guesses he'll take it. As they walk back, they both talk about how tired they are. Sunraiku says he'll stay on for a bit as there's something he wants to do. Next, we are taken out of the game back to the large computer we've seen before. Info note, automatic message, A+ completion of unique monster, Wiseman the Tomb Guard, detected at this time. The woman from before shouts, how? How could they? This is exactly why I said not to nerf him. Wiseman's not supposed to be the kind of unique you'd beat this early on. The first one to get beat had to be Satyrnid, or it doesn't work. Arthur Pencilgon, Sunraiku, Kazuo. Thanks to you people, my whole story's about to fall apart, she says with hate in her eyes. Info note, world story progression, rate 12%. Utopia Inc., the developers of Shangri-La Frontier. Their headquarters towers over every building in its vicinity. A car screeches to a halt in front of the headquarters and a well-dressed man hops out. As he moves into the building, he's greeted by an attendant as Director Su Kuyogi. This sharp-eyed, middle-aged man is Sakai Su Kyogi, Director of PR. As they move through the building, he asks what's going on. His update? Wiseman the Tomb Guard was beaten at the wrong time. The whole company's in a state of confusion. I'll bet it is, he remarks. He thinks to himself, Centrid was supposed to be the first one beaten after all. Wiseman was more mid to late game content. As he comes to the elevator, he thinks how he'll never be able to taste his wife's cooking. He asks the attendant if Tsukiri is down below. He confirms that she probably is. He also adds that Miss Amachi marched down there as well. I hear you, all a part of the job. Side note, Sakai reaches in his coat pocket, pulling out a small bottle. Unfortunately, he's all out of medicine. Sakai turns to his assistant and asks if he has any stomach medicine. A questioning no is answered back. As the elevator door closes, Sakai answers back with a solemn "oh." We move to the face of an infuriated woman. Her name is Retsu Amici, the executive producer of Shangri-La Frontier. Keycards, codes, fingerprint scanner, retinal scans, all only serve to drive her deeper into her stupor of rage. Finally, the door opens, letting her into the room occupied by Sakuyo Sakuri, the founder of Utopia Inc., and the World Creative Administrator. Retsu marches in exclaiming that Wiseman was defeated, and Sakuri assured her he wouldn't be beaten by anyone for at least a decade. She corrects Retsu's assertion, saying that the Ashura couldn't. Retsu explains why they didn't expect someone to bring the scales of compensation. There was no cheating, no glitch, no exploitation. Everything is on the up and up. Sakuri can no longer hold it in, and the floodgates are opened, allowing her rage to spill forth. What are you talking about? Can you even be more graceless? You were the one who nerfed him. That was your mistake. Admit it. Retsu barks back. If we went with your initial stats, nobody would ever beat him. Sakuri argues back. That's who he is. He's that strong. He's the strongest hero of Divinity, and you just wreck all of that for game balance or whatever. The arguing only continues to escalate until finally a physical confrontation is had. Finally, Sakai enters the room. However, without his pills, he is being debilitated by his stomach. He even tells the ladies to stop arguing. Unfortunately, he gets too close to the fisticuffs and a quick elbow lands in his stomach. Info note, Shangri-La Frontier, Utopia's flagship full-dive VR game, is governed by Sakuri, who creates the world, and Retsu, who works it into a playable game. Few know how these two core staff members fight like little children in the office. Side note, Sakai is the only one who can stop them. Info note, no one could have predicted how Shangri-La Frontier was going to move. As we move back into the game, we are placed into the Ligonian Palace. More accurately, in the room of Emule. Sunraiku asks Emule what she's doing. As she hears his voice, she jumps up and off of her bed. Emule asks Sunraiku how he managed to get back to Rabbit Country, and he tells her he got a teleportation scroll from one of his friends. She immediately jumps on him, crying about how concerned she was. As she gets down, she scurries out of the room, saying she will go tell her daddy. So you mind giving me the whole story, Vash asks? How'd the half-ghoul treat you? He was real strong, like way stronger than the derelict guy you threw at me. I'm sure he was, Vash laughs back. Vash suddenly gets very stern. So, did he die in peace? Yes, he even praised me as he did. Vash remarks that it may not be much longer. With a look of lust in his eye, he asks Sunraiku if he wants to know the truth of the world. Side note, Sunraiku thinks about Setsuna's words. If you want to find your own roots, the truth behind the world, Sunraiku forgets the image and speaks. Well, I couldn't ask for anything more. Darkness, night, jagged spikes. The Night Emperor sits atop a peak, waiting, snarling, smiling. New chapter, Journeying Wolf, be ambitious. The prismatic forest grotto, a familiar scene, but even one more familiar and recent is Setsuna's grave. Pencil places a vase of flowers at the foot of the grave. Side note, her armor is far less ornate, and the once cocky killer is replaced with a joyful, light-armored adventurer. I'm literally flat broke now, but I finally bartered enough to get these, Pencil says as she stares at the assortment of flowers. I'll bring some fancier ones next time, but I hope you'll take this. These flowers I happened to cross at this shop, they bloom just 5 minutes before they wither. But if you take them as an item before then, they stay in bloom forever, it seems. Live in the moment and stay forever. Setsuna Tawa in Japanese, that's the flower's name. Perfect for us, huh? You called yourself a vision, a copy, but to me you were the original, you were the real thing. Pencil thinks back to Setsuna's words. The truth, huh? Once I beat Wiseman the Tomb Guard, I was planning to quit Shanfuro at that point. But alright, Setsuna. No matter what, this Bahamut, I'm gonna drag them out to the light of day. We move back to Rabbit Country. Sunraiku is questioning Vash about the items he just requested. Vash elaborates on his request. There's a certain order to them. The truth of the world stuff comes after. Side note, Sunraiku can't believe they're kicking off the Vorpal Epic scenario with a fetch quest. As the quest moves forward, a new items needed screen appears with 3 items on it. Receiver, positioner, transmitter. After inspecting the list, Sunraiku asks where is all this stuff. He's supposed to at least get a hint, right? Vash responds with a try hitting the barren dark run. Sunraiku checks his map but chimes aloud he doesn't see it. Vash says you won't find that spot on any cheap map. Sunraiku thinks he better check Pete's shop later. Vash says he'll be more patient with Sunraiku for this job. As he walks away, he comments that unless you're a blind fool, you'll find it quick. Now that Vash has left the room, Sunraiku and Emule contemplate his words. Side note, Emule says this is going to be a long trip. Sunraiku smirks as he doesn't believe that's a fact. Info note, Sunraiku is a whopping level 78. Emule is flabbergasted. He says that beating Wiseman made his level skyrocket. As he inspects his new stats and skills, he's amazed to find that they've either evolved or jumped in level. Side note, he remarks if he's powered up this much, things ought to be a breeze for a while. The joyous moment continues as Sunraiku, fist clenched, says that's not all. They also got a lot of loot from Wiseman. As he rummages through his screens, he comes across the Tome of Truth, the Tomb Guard. Side note, he'll read this later. As he clicks on more items, a skill book pops out. It is called the Saiten Skill Book. Info note, Saiten Skill Book, a memory bank containing the skills of a master swordsman from the Age of Divinity. His strikes could cut the air, gouge the earth, and quell the dark clouds. Divine air equipment required to decipher and master. Sunraiku remembers that Wiseman used the Saiten style. Suddenly, Emule's face becomes a stress relief ball as he realizes he'll be able to learn Wiseman's skills. As he rejoices, he finally scrolls to the last piece of gained equipment. It looks like some kind of futuristic bracelet. Info note, Inventoria Key. The key and the door to a storage space known as the Inventoria, a unique bracelet accessory available only to a small handful of people in the Divinity era. Wear it, and if you are killed by another player, you will lose neither this accessory nor any items kept in the Inventoria. Info note, Inventoria Key capacity limit, none. Size limit, any non-organic matter up to 160 feet to a side. Portable access to a type of expanded space synchronizes with bodily data to become one with the wearer. Sunraiku says it's basically a type of infinite storage. He goes on to say, while not a showstopper, he'll test it out. As he equips the item, he begins pouring magic into it. In an instant, he's gone, teleported to the inside of a new storage space. As he looks around, he sees non-standard tactical robot animals akin to Kirin. He stands in shock. It's not just the mounts. The room is littered with a litany of weapons, armor, and gadgets. As Sunraiku peers around the room, he yells, "What is this?" Trophies litter a glass case within a room. Across from the trophies on the other side of this room are an assortment of VR helmets. Within the center sits a young man in a high-tech gaming chair. He begins to speak to himself aloud. Still, I got to see Shangri-La Frontier, such an incredibly well-made game. I figured it'd just be a little time waster too. Side note, the boy's name is Kai Uomi. The young man thinks about Sun Raikou and Pencil, laughing and commenting they get to have all the fun. As he stretches, he says he only has 1 week until the big show, so he's really got to work out all the kinks. Side note, his phone begins to buzz. Info note, Sun Raikou has sent a message to Kai telling him to check the inventory right now. He decides to blow off his work as he can't fall behind. As we move back to Shanfu Row, we go to a familiar bar, the Snake's Apple. The group is gathered around talking about the inventory and its contents. Pencil says that as it is, it's not much more than a museum exhibit now. Info note, the tactical fighters and specialized armor all require an energy source called a non-standard ether reactor. All the weapons require you to put that boosted armor on to use them. Kazuo remarks that he has a non-standard ether reactor. Side note, he pulls out a triangular object from his inventory. He remarks it was a drop from fighting Kirin. Kazuo ignores side comments about the rodeo of a fight he had and says the only problem is it's broken. He says all the local forges turned him down. Pencil comments they probably need a Divinity-era blacksmith in order to fix it. Sun Raikou realizes out loud he thinks he knows where they can fix it. They question him if what he says is true. He's not sure, but it's a part of his unique scenario. He asks Kazuo if he can have the item. Kazuo says he'll give it to him, but not for free. In exchange, he wants to access the unique scenario Sun Raikou's been hiding. Pencil begins to tell Kazuo that that's a little too far, but he rebuttals with a jealous, I'm never triggering one on my own, so I need to hitch on to someone else's. Pencil thinks to herself, info on Shangri-La Frontier's unique scenarios has a lot of value, especially if you got a monopoly on it. And us three aren't here purely because we're friends. We can't give away info that easily. We got our own profits to consider. She ends this inner monologue with, she knows Kazuo thinks the same way. After a quiet pause, Sun Raikou says they don't really spell out conditions, but he can tell him what he did to trigger it. Kazuo is shocked that he's agreed. He starts to tale, I was under level 20 when I randomly encountered the Night Emperor, a unique monster. I went 5 minutes without taking damage, and I landed about 200 critical hits with a Vorpal weapon. There you go. Kazuo barks, who the hell can do that, you clown? An argument breaks out between them, with Sun Raikou explaining that's just how it is. The anger is ceased by Pencil calmly asking for the item she lent Sun Raikou to be returned. Sun Raikou says, oh yeah, and pulls out the scales of compensation. Kazuo remembers the item from the Wiseman fight. Pencil begins explaining that this item is the cream of the crop when it comes to Shanfu Row. As long as you've got the money, it gives you more power than a unique monster. She explains she didn't want the item taken when she was PK'd, so she laundered it. Info note, laundering is a way to save your stuff from the player killer penalty. If player killers are killed, their items go to whoever killed them, and they pay a fine based on their offenses or their karma points. That, and most NPCs go hostile towards them. This fine can be tricky to deal with when they are killed. Any items they have in storage are automatically sold off with the proceeds used to pay the fine. But if you want to protect your stuff from being confiscated, you can launder it. Kazuo asks if this is why she gave the scales of compensation to Sun Raikou instead of putting it in storage. She responds with a no. If you just give the item away, they trace it and take it away anyway. So how did you do it, Kazuo questions. That's because they belong to the Golden Scales group, not me. They were never technically my property. The gist of it is, if you don't have possession rights to the item, it won't be put on the selling block. Sun Raikou says he understands the logic, but how is that laundering? It just means the scales are exempt from penalty. Well, Pencil says, she can use the scales to do something really neat. As she places her hand in front of the scales, pixels begin to flow outwards. The scales retain their balance. They take the past and return compensation for the offering. As she finishes her chant, 2 items appear on the table. Side note, one is the Tome of Truth and the other is the Brooch of Faraway Prayer. Pencil goes on to say she believes each of them got a slightly different set of items. This brooch and the Tome of Truth, I offered the scales of compensation. The moment I did, the brooch's possession rights went to the scales, and thanks to that, it no longer existed as an object in this world. Kazuo and Sun Raikou then understand that means when the process is reversed, she can get her items back. Pencil agrees with this analysis, but says she has to pay a price within a week to do so. Side note, the price was 40 in-game levels. As Pencil holds the brooch, she says if that's all it was, then it's a good deal. That's not all. Pencil says in order to borrow the scales, I used the main weapon as collateral. Sun Raikou thinks she should have paid a steeper price for her crimes. Kazuo questions how much her fine was. Pencil says all her crimes added up to about 500 million mani. She says that it's nothing she can't pay, but as they learn with Wiseman, a unique monster is worth a crap ton of money. Pencil adds on one more bit of information, and that info comes in the form of an offer. What do you think about the 3 of us forming a clan? Sun Raikou is deadly serious. Okay, we'll start a countdown. He begins. Pencil readies her arm. Kazuo returns the favor. 3 is chanted, and the group throws their hands outward. Pencil is eliminated as both Kazuo and Sun Raikou threw paper against her rock. This means that Pencil is now the de facto leader of the clan. Pencil argues, but the other 2 do not relent. As they move on, They begin picking out a name for the newly formed clan. Side note, prospective names are laid out on the table. Pencil picks one up and suggests it. As they come to agreement, she tells them to pick up their drinks. From this day forward, we will become a pack of traveling wolves seeking unique monsters, wherever we go. Here's to the founding of the Wolf Gang. Cheers! They begin talking about emblems and the such as a familiar face to us enters the scene. As they enter the bar, they remark how dead it is inside. They ask the group if they've seen the 3 guys from the announcement, the ones who killed the unique monster and everything. Their names are Arthur Pencilgon, Oi Kazio, and Sun Raikou. A brief moment of silence passes over the bar, and then a mad dash is made with our heroes bolting in every direction. As they sprint through Third Mia, Kazio says they can call it a day there anyway. With the hit to his levels, he's really got to start grinding to catch up. Pencil says she has to get her main weapon back anyway. She also tells Sun Raikou to look into the reactor for them. The black-haired mage from Schweizerwolf is in hot pursuit. He yells for Sun Raikou to stop running from him. As Sun Raikou hits a corner, he yells for a mule to open the gate for them. A mule poops out of her disguise and tells him he's late. The black-haired mage is sure he's caught Sun Raikou as that alley leads to a dead end. However, once around it, he notices that Sun Raikou is nowhere to be found. Sun Raikou has made his great escape and is currently at the Skill Gardeners in Rabbit Country. Sun Raikou asks about Vash. A mule remarks that since their last meeting, she hasn't seen him. He wolfs down a combination potion while remarking about wanting to see him. Elke asks if he wants a skill grimoire, but he rebuttals that he's flat broke. A mule asks what they'll do now. Sun Raikou says if she knows anyone else who might be able to fix the reactor. She suggests that they head to VRAC. Side note, we moved to VRAC's smithing area. Nope, can't be done, VRAC responds. I gotta be an ancient craftsman to fix Divinity-era gadgets. I'm just a master craftsman. Outside of my pops, I don't know who can help you. Sun Raikou decides to leave the reactor be for now and mentions aloud he'll just raise his skills. VRAC remarks about him using the word raise. At that instant, Sun Raikou has a great idea. I can just raise you. If there's no ancient craftsman around, all we gotta do is make you into one. VRAC says Sun Raikou has no idea what he's talking about and that it's not that easy. Sun Raikou says he's not asking her to be Vash, but that she's going to have to be one someday anyway. Why not take up the challenge and be an ancient craftsman? I wouldn't say that if I thought you had no chance. I'm saying it because I know what you got, VRAC. And I'll give you all the help I can. Me, an ancient craftsman, VRAC says? Alright, I'll play along with you. Ancient craftsman, here we come. Sun Raikou and a mule leap for joy. A mule asks what they'll do exactly. Sun Raikou replies with, huh? I don't know. VRAC says if she's going to be an ancient level craftsman, she's going to need 2 things. First, a Divinity-era item in the Legacy weapon family. This job's about handling weapons. I can't learn nothing without one of them. The second thing, as Pop puts it, this thing, apparently a magic application unit. Side note, VRAC butchers the pronunciation. After bickering about the pronunciation, VRAC exclaims that doesn't matter. If I'm going to be an ancient craftsman, I need an operating legacy weapon and that magic application unit on. Are we clear on that? VRAC also warns Sun Raikou neither will be easy to find. He thinks for a moment, a legacy weapon, huh? He then hovers his hand over the inventoria, and as he disappears for a moment, he reappears just as quickly. In his hand, a giant pitch black katana. If you need a legacy weapon, this ought to work, right? Everyone outside the palace can hear her yelling. Why do you have that? Are you kidding? VRAC holds the non-standard armament Harbinger longsword in her paws. Man, can't believe you already got a legacy weapon, she remarks. Yeah, when I defeated Wiseman, but you need an operating one, right? I think if we want to make it usable, we're still going to need to fix that ether reactor or we're stuck. To be an ancient craftsman, I need an operating legacy weapon so I can learn the techniques from the Divinity era. Learning how they work doesn't require more than just a few parts, but if it's in this good of a shape, then we are all good, VRAC says while smiling. Sun Raikou rejoices. As she lays the sword onto the anvil, she giddily says, let's get the show on the road. Time to tear this thing apart. Sun Raikou pleads with her to hold on. She asks, what is it? He says he needs permission before she can take it apart. Info note, the armor and weapons in the inventory are treated as belongings to all 3 of Wolf's gang. Thus, they've all got possession rights on the same stuff. VRAC says fine, and they'll save the dismantling for later. She pulls out a map and points to the Road of Past Glory, saying this is where the magic application unit lies. Sun Raikou asks to have a look at the map, commenting on how detailed it is. Info note, first they'll have to go through the Prismatic Forest Grotto. Then, after that, they pass through 4 Phosphor. They have to move past the inner canyon of Ancient Souls and toward Eighttold, the 8th city. From there, the goal point, the Road of Past Glories, is located between Eighttold and Eleventar, the 11th city. Sun Raikou remarks that it's pretty much a straight shot, but it looks like a long way. He also notices ahead of Eleventar is the Barren Dark Run. He remembers that there resides the items he needs for his EX unique scenario. He remarks that he's really worked up now. VRAC says one moment as she gets herself together. Sun Raikou is excited at the prospect of joining up with VRAC, but he's not sure how he'll get 2 rabbits out of Third Mia. He asks if VRAC can turn into a human and she tells him no. However, she can do something else. As she removes her binding, she begins to expand, becoming furrier and larger. Time to show you our best disguise skills, the sister duo shouts. Info note, Sun Raikou is wearing both Emule and VRAC. Virak as a large cape and a mule as a type of reverse backpack muffler. This is the furry coat muffler combo. Info note: Sanraku makes his way through the prismatic forest grotto, then Force Fear, and attempts to head to the Inner Canyon of Ancient Souls. Info note: Inner Canyon of Ancient Souls, the site of the final battle, in a war that erupted before mankind as we know it reached its current level of civilization. Ironically, the battle was forced to a halt by the arrival of a horde of monsters. However, the large numbers of dead shrouded the land in a miasma. Now it is a nest of undead, resentful of all who live. We rejoin the mini-group in Fort Fossier. Sunraku is at an item shop looking for potions to cure the miasma's poison. He remarks that he actually believes he only needs to worry about Virak and a mule becoming poisoned. As they leave the Forest City, they enter the Inner Canyon of Ancient Souls. Side note: Virak's equipment has changed. She now dons large, flame-engraved gauntlets. The Canyon of Ancient Souls is large, barren, jagged, and daunting. The air is visibly thick with poison, but around Sanraku it is clear. Virak asks how that's possible. Sanraku explains it's due to the marks of the Night Emperor. It dispels the miasma. As they make their way through the canyon, a large stomp begins to draw close. A monstrous bone wyvern has approached the group. One look at Sanraku sends the bone wyvern scurrying away in fear of the marks. Virak asks if that's because of the marking, and Sanraku confirms. As they walk, the bone wyverns scurry and hide in all directions, trying to avoid Sanraku. Virak suggests that the Night Emperor doesn't want anyone else touching his prey. At that moment, they reach it, an enemy worth fighting. A large, ominous, headless black knight atop an equally evil-looking horse stands in front of them. They note how he must be a strong one as to not fall into the effects of the curse. This is the rare enemy, Dulhan General. As Virak's weapon appears, she says it's the perfect first enemy for her to show off what she's got.